On the whole OK Boomer topic, though, I heard some discussion the other day listening to a podcast that I just didn't really like. And I think they were trying to make fun and make light of the OK Boomer meme. But one thing I will say, when it comes to talking about other people and talking to one another, like talking in terms of like this group of people, that group of people, whatever you say, you start to just load in assumptions and hot load in ideas that you're applying to a broad amount of people. And listening to this discussion, I was just like, you can't say these things about entire generations. Like I did say though, I think they were just trying to be funny, but if you were to take it seriously, it weren't cool. And that's just something I'd like more people to think about. I don't know what all of you are thinking about the OK Boomer thing. I hope you're not like taking it in too seriously, because to just make some of these statements about entire generations is kind of ridiculous, In the future, we'll say OK Zoomer. You can say OK Zoomer to me because it sounds like a Zoomer. Jeez, that's like a meme inside a meme right there. Oh, it's very serious, OK Boomer, says Drexus. The meme is fun. What I'm saying is just keep it a meme. Keep it about having fun. I hear some people, like I said, I heard this one podcast just talking about it in a way where it's like, and I know that some people out there will do this and they'll think about these things in this way. Have you heard boomers declare OK Boomer the N-word of ageism? Doomfist, thank you so much. That's what I'm talking about, right? Boomers didn't declare that. One person did. And then people start talking about it as if the whole generation agrees with them, and there are probably people that are agree with them, and then there's probably people that don't. This whole like taking little things that happen in the world and then painting these broad strokes about how they apply to everyone and generations and stuff is so damaging for how we think and feel about each other and how we communicate. I'm just really not a fan of it. The news is all clickbait, says Tellendarg. That's very true, man. The amount of times I see, oh, this thing happened and people are outraged. And who's outraged? One or two people on Twitter. I've read BBC articles where their proof of outrage is like a screenshot of about 3 tweets. And I'm like, nope, that's 3 tweets. That's not a crowd of people being outraged and angry. They're playing it up. I think boomers are taking it way too offensively, and most people with a voice and reporters, and then it went off the rest of the screen. Great, I didn't pick that message out in point. But that's my point, right? I think boomers are taking it too personally. Do you know how many people you just lumped into that category? There's so much more diversity and nuance of opinion than that out there in the world. And it's that kind of language that I feel is problematic, because then anyone who is or considers themselves a boomer can look at that and think, no, that's not how I think, and it can aggravate and cause issues. And I see this language all the time in the middle of conversations online. Get rid of generation names, says Tobias. I don't think you can get rid of them because, if they're here, it's pretty hard to have like a social movement that makes a change like that actually happen, right? Like, I'm pretty sure they're just going to continue being a part of language. There it is again. Drexler says, boomers don't understand sarcasm. I can't help but feel that was a cleverly loaded joke right there. Okay, Zoomer, says Adrian. Well done, GG. Issue is, it's not a conversation. It's a one-sided, uninformed dump, says Tuxaban. Well, let's make it not. Let's bring value to the conversation. That's why I like to talk about these things. Let's look for all the places where the conversation is, not as well thought out, and try and bring some quality to it. I'm sick of seeing all this like tension in the world constantly being elevated. Let's elevate some positivity, A boomer is someone who is detached from technology or modern things. OK boomer doesn't mean a baby boomer, literally, rather than the boomer is complaining about youth. Could be, but that's a perspective on the whole thing, right? Like, depending on what you've seen around the discussion, you've interpreted that way. I've obviously interpreted it a different way. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying this is another thing about language. When we use Twitter, we have such a small amount of words to use to express things, and the nuance of what we're talking about can get sucked right out of it. And so when you talk about boomers, as you've just described, we can literally be thinking about different groups of people. Again, why it's not a good idea to paint these broad strokes and label generations, with our conversation. I remember seeing a tweet where someone was like, if you can't express your point in 140 characters, then your point isn't valid. And I was like, really? Come on now, really? Like, there's a lot of stuff and things happening in the world. There's a lot that could be said about any subject. I think to say that if you can't summarize something in 140 characters, that's just mad. Imagine going in to like a surgery, right? Like, you need a clinical procedure, and being like, if you can't describe this clinical procedure in 140 characters, then I don't want you, right? Would you take the physician that goes, I'll follow 140, I'll follow 140 characters and I'll perform this surgery on you? No thanks. Sorry, mate. Read that really big, thick, detailed book. Read it twice. Read it thrice. Do some practice, please. No, don't do surgery on me based on a tweet of 140 characters, please. Do you know what I'm saying? That was a great example. That came to me right then. Okay, it came to me like a vision. It was funny, and it made total sense. Give me the Twitter doctor, please. Chainsaw Octopus. I like it. Where's that Twitter doctor? What do you mean this is a complex procedure? Describe it on Twitter. That's all you need. SCJDG says, I agree, X. 140 characters begs for confusion and to be misquoted and misunderstood. 1,400 characters isn't enough sometimes. I'm not sure if you added on an extra 0 there, if that was probably a typo. But sometimes not even a book is enough, right? Do you want to get in a rocket and go to space based on one book? Or do you want a library of history of physics and rocket science and a massive team of people, right? It's such a silly point. I think people don't think things through sometimes before they speak. I would probably be one of those people on occasion as well. I hold up my hand. I'm guilty, okay? I'm guilty, peeps. Boomer isn't an age group. It's a state of mind that must be dismissed with okay, boomer. I feel like you're reinforcing my point, but yes and no. Like, again, I kind of looked at it totally differently. Also, the conversation I heard, definitely referring to them as an age group. So you might think it's a state of mind, someone else sees something different. And, the language of memes means things usually get condensed down to a very small amount of words. And, where you first see the meme, understands its use, can really shape what you think the meme is about. And it can be totally different for what it is about for other people, right? That's kind of the point I'm trying to make in a nutshell. The lack of nuance that goes on in conversation sometimes. Boomers are so offended by the word boomers, but always call the younger generations useless and always on phones or screens. It just doesn't make sense. Again, I feel like you're all now just like playing to what I'm saying, right? By saying boomers, you're painting a broad stroke across a large group of people. Some people in that generation probably think and feel that way. I know people from this generation that say those kind of things about this generation anyway. Each generation is going to be like part of the culture of that generation. I could use a word like indoctrinated, but that just doesn't quite sound right. You're just going to become a part of what the culture is at the time. So whatever the boomer generation was into, the previous generation, there were probably some people that were going, oh, you lot with your, I don't know, what did the boomers do? Drive around in cars and get fast food? Didn't they grow up in the 50s, that generation? I'm trying to think of like American life in the 50s when the baby boom happened post-war. Like, that's when I think fast food and stuff started to really boom. Boom, get it, pun? Not really. It's just one of these things. Goes round in circles. Older generations, some of those people tend to moan about what the younger generation are up to because they don't get it. And you'll be old one day and you'll be doing it. You'll be jaded and shaded. And you'll be going, these, what are they going to be? What's after millennials? I don't know, let's just call them grammars because they're all on Instagram. These grammars with their micro computers inside their brains talking to themselves when they walk down the street, looking at the internet with the implant in their brain. What are they? Back in my day, we used to look at the internet on a phone. What's wrong with you? Crazy grammars. Grammars. Such a I'd never catch on. We've already killed that one. Some of y'all are just having a great time saying okay boomer to everything I say. Go right ahead.